We're doing our factoring refresher. So if I just look at the first set, so on our notes, it's by like set 1, set 2, set 3. So we're just going to look at set 1 for now. Set 1 talks about the greatest common factor. So greatest common factor. Thank you. And my pen wasn't working. Okay. So GCF, greatest common factor. Okay. So when you look at a problem, we want to see, is there something that can come out of every term? Is there something in common that can come out of each term? And so each term, remember, is like that little clump that's kind of being like multiplied together. It's the little pieces in between the addition and the subtractions, okay? So, for example, if we look at number 1, number 1 says 12K minus 18. And so if I talk about terms, we have 2 terms here. We have this 12K, that's one term, and then we have the negative 18, that's a second term. And so it's the things that are in between the addition or subtraction that are terms, okay? If I look at these, I want to find something that they have in common, okay? And I want to find the biggest thing they have in common, okay? And so if I'm looking at this, what do you guys think? What number can go both into 12 and 18 evenly and the biggest one? 6, good. So 6, I'm going to put on the outside, okay? And so from there, I also want to look at the variables. The first term has a K, but does the second term have a K? No. So I cannot take a variable out because it's only in one of them, okay? If the variable was in both, you might be able to take out a variable also, okay? And so from here, we're just going to divide this out. So we're going to say, okay, 12K divided by 6 gives me what? What's 12K divided by 6? 2K, good. So 2K is left over. And then if we look at the green one, we want to say negative 18 divided by 6. And so what do I get with negative 18 divided by 6? What did you say? Good, negative 3. Okay? And so this is my final answer right here. This is factored. Okay? It's almost like opposite of distribution. We're pulling something out rather than putting it in the parenthesis, right? And so if I were to redistribute this, I'm going to get the same original thing back, right? 6 times 2K is 12K. And 6 times negative 3 is that negative 18. So then you know that you did it right because you can check that it goes back to the original. Okay? So sometimes when we say factoring, this is the only thing you can do, is take out a GCF, okay? Other times we can do more things, but sometimes it's like just, is there a greatest common factor? And if so, pull it out, okay? So let's look at another one in set 1. So remember, set 1 is the only thing I can do is greatest common factor. So let's try a harder one. I'm going to go to I'll go to number 2. It's not bad. Okay. So number 2 has 40x to the 8th y plus 64x to the 4th y. Now, the only thing that has an addition or subtraction between it, there's only one. So that actually tells me I still only have 2 terms. This is one term, and this is one term. So I only have 2 terms. Because the only addition or subtraction is right here in the middle. So this one's a little trickier because we've got some variables, or more than one variable even. So the first thing you want to look at is the number, the 40 and the 64. And you want to say, okay, what number can go into both of those? And what the highest number that can go into both of those? So what do you guys think? Thank you. What's the highest number that can go into 40 and 64? 8, okay? So if I put 8 on the outside over here, then I'm going to look at the x's. I have an x to the 8th and I have an x to the 4th. In this case, when they're the same, you want the lowest exponent because you agree that the lowest exponent can go into both, right? We can't put the highest one into both. Like I can't take an x to the 8th out of x to the 4th, right? I can't divide that. So when you have the variable with an exponent, you always take the smallest exponent. Okay, so out of the x's, what's the smallest exponent? Yeah, so x to the 4th is going to be the smallest x. And then what about the y's? What's the smallest exponent on the y's? If there's no exponent, what is it? 1, right? Just 1. So both of them have no exponent. So it's just, they both have y in common. Okay? So we're taking out everything they have in common. Now we're going to divide it. So we're going to divide this first one by 8, x to the 4th, and y. And if you remember, anytime I divide exponents, I subtract. Okay? So we're first going to go, okay, what's 40 divided by 8? Right here, we're just doing the numbers first. So 40 divided by 8, 5. Okay, then I'm going to look at the exponents. I have an 8 and I have a 4. But when I'm dividing, I really subtract. So what's 8 minus 4? 4. So we're going to have x to the 4th. And then I have y divided by y. Well, anything divided by itself is 1. So it really just cancels out. Okay, so it's just 1. So we don't need a y there. So that was the first term. Then we're going to go to the second term and do the same thing. We're going to divide this whole thing by 8 x to the 4th y. Okay, so what is 64 divided by 8? 8, good. And then we have a positive here, so we're going to say plus 8. And then we have x to the 4th divided by x to the 4th. Well, anything divided by itself is 1, and I don't need to have a 1 there. So those actually just cancel out. And then what about y divided by y? Yeah, same idea. Y divided by y will be 1, and so that also goes away. And so this is what I'm left with. And this is my final answer. I know it looks funky, but this is my final answer. If I were to redistribute that, you would end up with the original back. Okay? Are there any questions on pulling out a greatest common factor? Is it starting to ring a bell from Algebra 1 a little bit? Hopefully. Okay, I'm going to have you try number 4 on your own. I want you to try number 4 on your own. So those of you that don't have the paper in front of you, I'll write it for you. But I do want you to try it on your own. Those of you that walked in late, if you need a packet, they're up here on this little desk. They're the same ones from Monday, though. All right, so number 4 is 3ab squared minus 5a squared b. All right, so go ahead and try number 4. I think everybody came in while we were talking. I'm going to stop recording.